James Gunn's Superman has finally arrived in theaters, and with that, it is time for us to go into full spoilers. So that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you guys, is giving you my spoiler review for Superman, diving into some of the cameos, Easter eggs, things I really loved about the movie, other things I'm nitpicky and kind of mixed on, how some of the stuff in Superman sets up the overall DCU. Oh, we have a lot to discuss. So be sure you're also leaving me your opinions on things you loved or disliked about this movie, your theories and predictions about where things could go next, anything, everything, leave it down below. But all right, kicking things off here, just reiterating some of my thoughts on the movie. I've seen it twice now, and I've bought my tickets for a third time. And in that second viewing, everything I loved about it was still there and present. In fact, I felt like I was able to enjoy the movie a little bit more, making me feel like James Gunn's Superman is going to be extremely rewatchable. David Cornsweet as Superman perfectly embodied the character. All the action set pieces and dynamic sequences I thought were still good. But at the same time, some of my issues and things I mixed on the movie didn't go away, and they were still there. All right, so let's just start off at the beginning and work our way down. So the movie opens up with, I think, a really brilliant way to jump us into the DCU. It lets us know that 3 centuries ago, the first meta-human arrived on Earth, and ever since then, there have been a bunch of them, and we live in a world where people are just used to superheroes, people with powers, crazy monsters, and things happening all about in the city. I was seeing a ton of comments of people complaining, why does anyone live in Metropolis? Well, good luck living anywhere else, buddy, because you go to Central City in The Flash, you're going to be attacked by a gorilla. You go to Gotham, your water supply poisoned by a clown. If anything, I'm staying in Metropolis because I at least know Superman would most likely be able to handle the danger. But the title card kept going on from there, letting us know 3 decades ago, a baby from Krypton landed on here. 3 years ago, he revealed himself to the world as the most powerful metahuman. And 3 months ago, he stopped a war. And now, 3 minutes ago, Superman just lost his first ever battle. When I read that sentence on the big screen for the first time, Superman has just lost his first battle, chills. That's just the text, and I was getting chills. It made that opening just so much more cooler to see Superman in that suffering pain pose, calling for crypto, begging for help. However, this is where the nitpicking begins. I wish the movie treated that like a bigger deal, because like I said, I think a lot of people will read that line. Superman just lost a battle for the first time in his life. Wouldn't that be huge for him? He's like, I've never encountered somebody else that can pummel me. And they just established that the world sees him as the most powerful metahuman. But Superman, or even the people of Metropolis, don't seem that fazed that, hey, our most powerful hero was just destroyed by this hammer of Baravia. I think we should be panicking. But all right, that's when Crypto takes Superman to the Fortress of Solitude. He gets healed up. We've seen that clip released online, but the part we didn't see is it gets revealed Bradley Cooper is Jor-El, the father of Superman. And this is where the movie gives us a little bit more insight into the origins of this Superman, where when he crash landed on Earth, his pod that held the message of his parents actually got damaged. And so his whole life, he's only been able to hear the first part of their message, just saying that we love you. We sent you down to this planet for you to be humanity's hope, to help them, guide them, and protect them. And then he never found out the rest. And we see that Superman cherishes this message, that every time he's in the Fortress of Solitude, he likes to have it playing because it comforts him. As far as how I felt about Bradley Cooper being the cameo, that's fine with me. I didn't really think too big of a deal of it. But here's like kind of where I want to nitpick again. Oh man, gonna be a lot of nitpicking, but I want to remind you, I do like and enjoy this movie, but the things that bother me is the reason the movie to me is like an 8 out of 10 or a B plus instead of something like a 9 out of 10 or an A plus like a lot of people out there are feeling with the movie. James Gunn recently said in interviews how he feels Superman, Spider-Man, and Batman are some of the comic book characters where we never really need to see their origin again. We don't need to see Peter getting bit by a spider, Batman's parents getting shot in an alley, and we don't need Superman being sent down to Earth for the millionth time. And while I can understand why he says that, because if every time you reboot Superman or a superhero and you dedicate half that movie to their origin, it really does get tiresome, wasted. But I don't think that means you dismiss the origin or you skip it all entirely, because sometimes the origin you give to this new iteration really speaks to them. And man, that couldn't have been more true for David Cornsweet's Superman. It was so weird to me that James Gunn's like, you guys don't need to see this origin, but let me have the entirety of this movie and its major conflict revolve around the origin of Superman. But not gonna show you that origin. That's the kind of stuff that really made this feel like a sequel to a Superman movie we never saw before. Like, this is David Cornsweet's Superman 2 or Superman 3. And heck, since I'm already on this topic, let's just discuss this plot point and decision. After Lex Luthor infiltrates Superman's Fortress of Solitude, and he's able to like decode that damage message thanks to the engineer, and the other half of that message ended up being rule this planet, repopulate Kryptonians. It's up to you to save our bloodline, making it sound like Superman was actually here to conquer Earth instead of help save it. And the entire movie was just in disbelief. I was like, no, Lex Luthor obviously faked that. It's gonna be revealed somewhere down the line. And even through the many times the movie like reiterates, no, this is actually what the message says. Mr. Terrific even goes, no, that's pretty much what the message says. No, this is happening. Every single time throughout that, I was like, that's not what the message says. They're not gonna do that. That's not gonna do that. And it really wasn't until the credits rolled in the movie end that I was like, oh, they stuck with that. Mama and Pa Jor-El, evil. Okay then. And a lot of people are going to be that because the information is coming from Lex Luthor, who is doing everything in his power to ruin Superman's name. That's why I felt like this movie could have benefited from focusing in on that more, or us, the audience, knowing that information directly from them instead of it coming from Lex Luthor, because that on itself, we're just not going to trust. But getting past that, the actual decision to make his parents evil, I actually do not mind that. And if anything, I think it fits perfectly in line. One thing I was thinking to myself when I saw the Christopher Reeve movie and the speech Jor-El gives to Superman, or the Man of Steel movie and what Kurt Russell says to Henry Cavill's Superman, there is some really creepy, dark undertones in that message. I know at the end of the day, it's a positive message where they say, go and save them, help them out, you're going to be the light, you're going to guide them. But there was always a thought in my mind when I was hearing those messages going, this sounds a little belittling to the Earth people, and who are you to send a god with unbelievable powers to a super weak planet and just think, he's a baby, I think it'll be okay, we gonna die anyways, he's gonna be fine.
He'll be an outcast, a freak. They'll kill him.
No, he'll be a god to them.
I don't care what your good intentions are. That is a terrible idea on paper. That's a good thing Ma and Pa Kent found him, but we have seen different iterations where like Superman lands in Russia or could have been raised by like the worst parents possible. Having this iteration just let it be that the Kryptonians only cared about their own race, their own son, and not humankind, but us seeing that Clark growing up with humans, being raised by them and choosing them and wanting to believe that the other half of that message was his parents just saying, serve the people of Earth, well, that just speaks good to the character of Superman, and that's actually an aspect I like. So I am okay with this decision. I wonder if this will be a recurring plot point and there's more to it as Superman sequels go on, or even in the Supergirl movie, or if it'll just be dropped here. Either way, I was okay with it. I just felt the way the movie executed could have been a little bit more clear, so I wasn't second guessing it all up until the credits were ending. But after that battle with the Hammer of Baravia, Clark goes to work the next day, and yeah, I do agree with people. I wish we could have gotten a little bit more Clark Kent, but the little we do see of him in the Daily Planet interacting with Lois or Jimmy Olsen, I thought was some good stuff. And then that segued us into the apartment scene with Lois and Clark. That's where she finally gets to interview Superman, and that's one of the best dialogue scenes of this movie. They're back and forth, and the gradual progression from them being playful and chummy to Superman actually getting agitated and frustrated with Lois's questions. It was such a good representation of Lois Lane, because that's how hard-pressed she would be as a journalist. She puts her career first. And I know people complain about whiny or loud Superman in this scene, but no, I totally get Superman being like, what the heck? I'm only saving people. This is then where we move on to Lex then trying to go to Superman's Fortress of Solitude. So he creates a distraction where he just releases this mini little kaiju that is going to gradually grow over time. And we cut to him being gigantic and Superman coming in to save the day. Okay. A lot of thoughts, because this is really where it thrusts you in and it shows you what the DCU is like. There is no explanation for this kaiju or how it works, where it comes from, or why it even exists. It's just something you gotta accept in the DCU, and I have no problem with that. I don't need everything to be explained to me in detail or spoon-fed, and that is sometimes what Superman does. There's a lot of instances in this movie where I wish it was more show than tell. Every other line of dialogue felt like it was characters lore dumping and cramming to catch catch the audience up to an already fully built DCU. I mean, some examples: whenever Superman first goes into the Fortress of Solitude after being beaten up and needs the rays from the sun to heal, right, in that moment you just get these awkward lines of dialogues from the robot that it's like, yes, he crashed down as a baby and this is his message from his parents, but it's actually damaged. We don't know the rest of the message. When you go to like Lex Luthor in his booth controlling the Hammer of Baravia and what to do, you have his goons going, whoa, Lex, it's almost like you know his moves. Well, he's actually been studying Superman for 3 years, so yeah. You go to Clark and Lois in the apartment and he's cleaning dishes and randomly goes, well, Lois, we've been dating for 3 months now. That's where I was saying this is James Gunn's messiest script, because usually information or lore like that doesn't feel so forced and unnatural. That doesn't feel like a genuine conversation you're about to have. It feels like necessary things you gotta say because there's an audience watching this movie right now. That's one of the things I always admired about the first Star Wars. Although I'm not much of a Star Wars guy, A New Hope, the way it just jumps you in to the middle of this intergalactic battle. Darth Vader's about to destroy a planet. Princess Leia's gonna lose everything. In those scenes, characters didn't stop to tell you exactly what was happening. You as the audience were shown it and you could connect the dots from there. It's like Vader didn't walk up and go, finally, Leia, after years of being trained by Obi-Wan Kenobi and going into a flaming pit and then getting redesigned as this thing, I am taking down Alderaan. Or stay in the same lane as the DCU, Matt Reeves' Batman does such a good job of putting you into an already built Gotham City, a Batman who's been on the job for a few years. That movie is a great example about filling the audience in without things being forced. Whenever Batman or Gordon had screen time together for the first time in that movie, Gordon didn't go up to Batman saying, yeah, Batman, this Riddler guy, ever since we started working together 2 years ago, things have been worse. And that's where this movie, I think, could have benefited for being a little longer or letting it kind of be an origin just a little. But okay, we get to this kaiju being there. Superman arrives, trying to save the day. And this is where I was just really starting to fall in love with David Cornsweet's Superman. The way he was trying to control the situation, figure out what to do, but also being super aware about saving other people, making sure the monster doesn't take down a building, turning around and asking people who just got fire thrown at them if they're okay. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, look at this. They're still responding to Man of Steel. We get it. He shouldn't have let the city get destroyed. I think as fans, we have to get to a point where we realize not every Superman movie is a response to Man of Steel. Yes, that is one of the flaws of this film, but a Superman movie should always be him being mindful and trying to save people during a big attack. Even the Christopher Reeve movies would do that. And are they time travelers that were just trying to stick it to Snyder, showing them that's how you save people? And I mean, to even add it a step further, Superman saves a dog and a squirrel in that scene. I love this Superman. That is the corny, sweet guy stuff you want Superman to be. Saving a freaking squirrel. I love that, and that gave me such a big smile on my face. This was also where they introduced the Justice Gang. They come in to help Superman, but you can tell these heroes, they just aren't as kind as Superman. They just want to get rid of the problem, do their job, and clock out, because that's how they see things. This is a job to them. They're the sponsored heroes owned by Maxwell Lord, and you even see Mr. Terrific get annoyed when Superman suggests, we gotta find a way to get it out of here, study it, and let it live somewhere more safe. Like, Mr. Terrific's eyes start rolling, going, oh, brother. Like, he wanted to gag with how kind Superman was being, but that's literally Superman. He is such a goody two-shoes, it's almost annoying. And that's what I meant about like the boring traits about Superman and why I never really got into him as a kid. James Gunn made those boring goody two-shoe traits actually cool, likable, and really made me admire this interpretation of Superman. And in this scene, great CGI work with like Hawkgirl trying to hit the kaiju with her mace on the eyeballs, Green Lantern guy Gardner conjuring up some mittens and a mouth jaw. I was like, yes, finally some Green Lantern action on the big screen, because we need it. And oh, dude, Superman's face whenever Mr. Terrific uses T-spheres to explode the kaiju and kill it, that's Superman. He was so disappointed. He was so sad that happened because he felt like there was a more humane or kind way to go about that. And so after now glazing, let me get on to a nitpick. Why isn't that a larger focus of the movie? That's what I'm talking about, where this Superman film wasn't super focused. It was like 4 or 5 different stories, all given the equal level of importance, and I just felt it made you think, what is the main story of the movie then? I'm going to assume it's Clark's lineage and parents, because That's what the movie starts with, and that's what the movie ends. So I'm thinking that's the main point of the movie, right? Is Superman coming to realize it's not about your birth parents, it's about the actual parents that raised you and the person they made you and the decisions you make today as a hero. But if you ask James Gunn, he continuously says the movie is about kindness in a world that's forgotten that. But I feel like we don't get to explore that much in this movie. I was so shocked all throughout this film. We never really discussed the fact that these are sponsored heroes, that they are being paid, that this is a job to them. I was kind of hoping we'd address that and Superman would be like, you know, you guys shouldn't really do that. And maybe they would fight back on Superman where they'd be like, oh, it's easy for you to say you have a career outside of your superheroism. How are we going to pay the bills when this is all we do? But that conversation never really happens. And even at the end of the movie, you're supposed to believe that Superman's kindness did rub off on them because they go to Baravia to help out with the war and whatnot, but it's not even a fully fulfilled arc because Hawkgirl goes as far as to kill the prime minister of that country. I guess it's being left open and that's going to be explored more in other projects because even by the end of this movie, Frank Grillo, who plays Rick Flag Sr., he's talking to another member of the government and he's like, well, I'm glad you're not afraid of metahumans because looks like they run the world now. That's going to be something that impacts further sequels, maybe even Civil War style, where these heroes will have to register, have to be enlisted with the government, or else they're not allowed to do what they do. And obviously Superman's not going to be okay with it, but you know, we'll see. If we get on to like Lex Luthor and his schemes, man, they really gave him a lot to do. So I think Nicholas Hoult plays the role so well. I love the energy he gives off, how angry he is at Superman, and that monologue towards the end where he actually puts into words why he just doesn't like Superman. All really good stuff, but I kind of wish they didn't give him all this freaking other things to do. I get he's a super genius, but all right, he builds this pocket universe that, again, a lot of show don't tell, where as soon as we're introduced to the pocket universe, in one sentence, Luthor goes, oh yeah, I did it with the super collider and made it in my basement, and now I have this pocket dimension. Anyway, Superman, get inside that cage. It's just like, this is such a huge deal and we're just flying by it with a one-sentence explanation. And I mean, let's just talk about that pocket prison. It's just like, what? Lex Luthor is throwing in people that he just doesn't like, ex-girlfriends, people who annoy him. And not to mention, he also has an entire group of monkeys that are constantly writing hate on social media to ruin Superman's reputation. Like, it's obvious some of the parallels in real life that James Gunn was throwing. Like, I'm not dumb to know Baravia and Jahav, the two fictional countries, it's Israel and Palestine. Yeah, the little monkey bots that are spewing hate on Superman using hashtag This is the Snyder Cult. It was just like so much all at once. But okay, backing up, before Superman gets arrested into this prison, we see him at his apartment where it's that first look photo that we got. And a couple of things happen here. For one, on TV, we get the cameo of Peacemaker John Cena, who's just talking crap about Superman because the world now knows that he was sent here to restart up Krypton and maybe take over. And it'll even get people to go watch Peacemaker season 2. I was even pleasantly surprised that in both my screenings, whenever Peacemaker popped up, entire audience clapping. I'm like, this was like a nobody character in the deep ethers of DC's comic history, and now he's like a mainstream person with like Mortal Kombat collabs. It's pretty cool that James Gunn can do that. But it's another great sentimental conversation with Lois Lane and Clark, because this is after their big fight where Lois is like, I'm just not good in relationships. I don't know if this will work out. And Superman is just so defeated and hurt by what he's learned about his heritage, the world turning on him. And it's such a sweet moment, but I do just kind of hate that it's played up for comedy, because in the background, you have that squiggly thing that's described as an interdimensional imp, and this has actually made a lot of diehard Superman fans disappointed, because another interdimensional imp in Superman lore is a character named Mr. Mxyzptlk. Hopefully I pronounced that correct, which to some Superman fans is one of his more popular villains. And as you can obviously tell from these photos, looking nothing alike. To me, the two things that bug me in the scene is I'm trying to pay attention to the conversation that they are having and being emotional with, and I just keep getting distracted with the Justice Gang struggling to fight this thing, but also the fact that Superman said he wasn't helping them. He wasn't over there assisting them, and I'm like, Superman would totally be over there helping, even if these people don't like him right now, or if this was not even a threat and they could easily hand it. Superman would not leave it up to chance just because he's a little upset. He would still be there protecting the citizens of Metropolis. That was like the only thing in this entire movie where I was like, that didn't feel like Superman. At like 99% of the movie, that's Superman. That one scene, I didn't feel like Superman. Again, that's just me though, because immediately we go back to him feeling like Superman. They have that punk rock conversation that I honestly thought was very sweet and James Gunn nailed. But he tells Lois, he's like, hey, I gotta go turn myself in. Hopefully I can find Crypto because they've kidnapped him at this point. And the way he says, yeah, he's not even a very good dog, but he's probably afraid and alone and I need to help him. I'm like, that's my Superman. Even just him turning himself in and then getting unnecessary force used on him, like, dude, that's just some Superman stuff I really liked about this movie. But okay, this is then where he finally is in the prison and we are introduced to the Element Man, aka Metamorpho, who's just thrown in there. This is the one time where I was like, this kind of dialogue is a little needed, where Lex Luthor's like, this is the Element Man. He can turn into any substance, including kryptonite. Short, sweet, I get it. At least they didn't go into his full backstory and everything, but it was a lot to take in. You just see this purple, orange, white guy and over there's like, oh, and that's his green baby Joey. You're like, this is a lot. This is what made it feel very comic booky, and you're either rolling with it or you're against it. I was rolling with it because I like Metamorpho. But Lex Luthor needed to do this because apparently there is no more kryptonite left on Earth, and that is an interesting statement. I wonder where all that kryptonite was. One, how do the people of Earth even know that's his weakness? It's like a subtle detail in there that it's like, it feels like there was a previous movie we missed about Earth knowing that or kryptonite disappearing. In my headcanon, I'd like to believe at this point, Batman is friendly towards Superman and Batman would take it upon himself to own the entirety of Earth's kryptonite because it's only safe in his hands. And if he ever does need to put Superman down, he knows he has a full supply to do it. Maybe we'll get revealed that later. But also, I think it's going to be a great plot point that we can't just easily be going to grabbing kryptonite and using it against Superman. For all the complaints this movie gets about Superman getting his butt whooped, I'm like, dude, I like it. I'm okay with it. It shows you really what a real comic book writer would do with Superman. There's 100/1,000 different ways you can fight Superman that don't require you to have kryptonite or be stronger than him. Magic is one of them. And the engineer, like being able to use her nanotech to fill up his lungs and try to like cut off his air and possibly implode him, I think that's another way. And in those scenes where Superman is getting beat up, you also see the intelligence, that he's not all just muscle. So to me, I like how much Superman did have to struggle and the times he would overcome those moments because it worked better for the character and made him more relatable. If you're constantly just having Superman in a situation where he's never hurt, he's never damaged, that's the things that make him boring. Overcoming a struggle makes him relatable, thus us being able to sympathize with him. But okay, that sequence continues on, and that's one crazy sequence. That's where it went full comic booky to me, and the first time I was watching it, I was a little iffy because, I mean, you have this whole river of protons. You have a Superman holding a little green alien, Crypto chasing T-spheres from Mr. Terrific, and Metamorpho just using his powers and being a little floaty head with some squiggly hands. This is the type of action and scene that the MCU built up to over 3 phases and an entire decade. Because looking at that, to me, is the equivalent of seeing Spider-Man in an Iron Spider suit holding an Infinity Gauntlet made by Iron Man, jumping onto Valkyrie's Pegasus and flying in the air with a battle of Thanos. That level of comic book geekery just happened in the first Superman movie. So like, it was a lot to take in, but man, was it a beautiful scene. And if we're already just getting that into the comic book world from the start, I can't imagine how much more wilder it gets. I do think James Gunn has to be careful though, because if you get too much in the habit of just introducing random crazy unique thing like a little kaiju that grows big overnight, a guy who can have a floating head, flying dog, all these weird elements, eventually you grow numb to that. And the weirder things get, the less impact it has, and you just start disconnecting with the movie because now it feels like anything can happen. In the next scene, a unicorn can come in and stab Superman through the heart, and that's just the kind of vibe these movies give now. So I hope James Gunn works a little bit better about introducing something weird, but also adding a limitation or grounding it in its own reality. And what I mean by that is not making it realistic, but if you introduce something weird, set its own rules and follow those rules in their universe and don't let just anything and everything happen. I know I talked about it in my spoiler-free review, but I just want to mention it off top. Right before though, Mr. Terrific in that scene he gets where he goes after Lex Luthor's raptor soldiers. Oh, I love it, man. Even the song they played, James Gunn is so good at picking song choices for cool fight scenes. And in that one scene, Mr. Terrific became such a badass, made me want to see so much more of him. And I really hope we do. I know they're already talking about a possible TV show spinoff with Mr. Terrific. That came out in an article today, but I'd rather see the Terrifics. That's just like a little team led by Mr. Terrific that also includes Metamorpho, who we just got to see. I would so watch a movie with him leading a team of heroes and doing some sort of mission in the DCU. And I guess even on that point of other heroes, there was a really big cameo and Easter egg in the Hall of Justice. Another thing I wish they kind of delved a little deeper in, because I mean, you see it, that's eventually supposed to be the place that the Justice League gather, meet together, do missions, but it's not that right now. It feels like it was just recently purchased by Maxwell Lord and his Justice Gang, because you can see the interior is still being built, there's barely offices, and even on the wall, there is a mural of so many other DC characters. I only caught it on my second viewing, so the first time I watched the movie, I didn't even notice the mural. It's literally like to the left of Guy Gardner in the scene, wherever Lois Lane is talking to him, and they're talking about Clark having hypno glasses, which, side note, I don't like that. Why do we need that extra inclusion? Feels so unnecessary, especially since this is like the first time you actually put an effort into making Clark Kent and Superman look very different. You don't need the explanation of the glasses, man. With all going on in this world, I could just believe this world is not smart enough to put 2 and 2 together. It happened in the comics. A lot of weird things happened in the comics. Peter gave MJ cancer with his sperm. Happened in the comics. Should we do it again? Didn't think so. But anyways, on that mural, it looks like it was the previous heroes that actually owned this Hall of Justice. The Justice Gang are not the heroes to own this building, and I'm thinking it's the Just Society of America. The only character I was able to catch off from like the 3 seconds when it was on screen was Wildcat, a character I'm only familiar with because of the Batman Brave and the Bold animated series, and I think Wildcat is actually a pretty interesting character. I would really love to see a Justice Society of America movie in this DCU that maybe takes place 30, 50 years before Superman arrives on Earth or is even here, and just the kind of missions that would happen. And also, where is that team? Did they all die? Did they all separate? Did they break up? Like, that's the kind of stuff that makes me so interested in this DCU. So if you're planning to go rewatch Superman, hey, keep an eye out for that mural in the Hall of Justice, because it's a hint to a lot of heroes that have already existed in this world. But okay, let's talk about another big plot point and reveal in this movie. So Lex Luthor is now gotten so desperate and just is trying to catch Superman at any turn since he escaped his prison, to where he lets his pocket dimension open a rift, destroying Metropolis and hoping Superman arrives so that he can have another chance at getting him. And well, that does end up happening, and that's where we get the big battle between Ultraman and Superman, where it gets revealed Ultraman the entire time was a clone. Shocker. I feel like that was the #1 guess, and if anything, I caught it as soon as Lex Luthor was able to enter the Fortress of Solitude without any issues. I was like, well, it's probably DNA based, so I'm guessing Ultraman has the DNA of Superman. That's a Superman clone. Dude, that's huge. That's a big deal. You clone Superman, the most powerful metahuman, and it's again explained away in 1 sentence, dude. Why? Like, as soon as we find out he's a clone, Lex Luthor's like, yeah, cloning you was easy. Just had to get DNA from one of your fights. But he's really dumb, though. And that's it. That's the entire impact of there being a Superman clone in this movie. I don't like that, James Gunn. Stick to one of these subplots and make it the thing that revolves around the movie. Earlier in the film, Lex Luthor is trying to pitch Ultraman to the government, saying that, hey, I can lend you Ultraman. He can be the most powerful superhero, and he's also under the US command, so he'll do anything you want. Why couldn't you have tied that in with also, oh, but we got corporate superheroes that'll also do that? And play into Superman not being happy that there's this fake version of him going around pretending to be a hero who's not doing things right. Then there's the Justice Gang that are just doing it for money and celebrityism, and show that kindness and doing good is the better way. But we don't get that clear message. It's muddled in all these dozens of subplots and things being thrown at the movie. Would have been such a great way to commentate on the evil Superman trope that's been popping up. The movie could have been Lex Luthor faking incidences or allowing more kaijus or monsters to destroy Metropolis, while then he sends Ultraman to save the day, even though he's the one causing a lot of the problems. I feel like there was something there that could have unified all these different subplots into one instead of making them feel so separate. I was a fan, though, of Lex Luthor calling out these numbers and digits to fight Superman, that he's that smart in his head that he's memorized all his abilities and he just knows them. 1A 3C, 4A, 69 him. I don't know. I thought it was cool. I've seen some people complain that it's like, how would that work? But that's just the mind of Lex Luthor, man. And I love that line too, where he's like, mind over bronze. That's just gonna be such a great reaction gif when it releases online. But yeah, we do have to talk about it. It looks like Superman might have killed his clone because he breaks his own shoulder just to be able to throw Ultraman onto a bus that eventually goes into a black hole. I don't know if he is dead. I feel like they could easily bring that back up, and this is maybe the origin for Bizarro in the DCU. Because usually Bizarro is a character from a different Earth and is the opposite of Superman. Maybe that black hole took him to that opposite reality, and maybe Bizarro will actually be a hero there, and somehow, some way, they can bring him back, and he can be an even bigger threat for this version of Superman. They could explain it like all clones do. They deteriorate over time, and it could give him that real bizarre, twisted look. Or they just might never mention him again, and maybe he did get killed by Superman. Superman stops Lex Luthor, gives that good speech about he's good in humankind. I like the speech, but again, it felt a lot of like show don't tell. Like, let me just tell you why I'm a good Superman instead of all the things I was doing to show it to you. But I still kind of like the speech. And this is the only time the James Gunn humor did bother me, where we didn't get that full-on conversation with Lex and Superman, and Crypto comes in, grabbing him Loki and Thor style and pummeling him around the room. I've seen a lot of people hate on the James Gunn humor and how he keeps interrupting that, but I think there's plenty of moments where that didn't happen. I think about the first fight scene between Lois and Clark early on in the movie. That didn't end with a joke. I think about the absolutely brutal and heartbreaking scene where Lex Luthor grabs somebody who was just nice to Superman on the street, this food truck vendor, where Lex Luthor plays Russian roulette and shoots him. Like, that was an absolutely crazy scene that really made me hate Lex Luthor, and you can see the pain in Superman's eyes. Like, that wasn't played up for laughs. That was pretty effed up. Yes, Lex Luthor says a line of like, oh, I thought that'd last longer. That can be interpreted funny, but that didn't downplay the impact of that scene. If anything, that just showed you how evil Lex is to just make a joke during that. And of course, probably the most sentimental part of this movie is where David Cornsweet Superman's having a conversation with his mom and Pa Kent, which I love this version of the Kents, man. The little country charm they gave them, oh, it worked for me. I fully believe that these are sweet people that raised a really good little boy. And just the way Ma Kent was like talking on the phone, congratulating Clark on his article. We saw the article, Clark. We liked it. And the speech Pa Kent gives about, you're a good person because what you wanted that message to believe, not because of what it ends up meaning and all that. Like, it's actually touched my heartstrings. And that didn't end with a joke. Something I do want to touch upon really quick that just goes to show you sometimes when movie plot leaks leak online, you gotta take them with a grain of salt. I wasn't trying to look at many plot leaks for Superman when it was up and coming. I know there was some out there, and there was even apparently an entire Reddit page that actually accurately got everything that happened in this movie, except they completely misconstrued or switched up the context of a lot of scenes. The point I'm talking about specifically is this plot point where Jimmy Olsen's source to try and take down Lex Luthor is Lex Luthor's girlfriend, who on the surface just looks like she's this pretty ditzy girl who's taking a bunch of selfies, not actually caring about anything going on around her, and is in love with Jimmy Olsen and just wants to be with him instead of Lex. This is the only plot leak I saw online, and it did make me super worried for Superman. It specifically said that Jimmy Olsen would be sexting Lex Luthor's girlfriend, and she would be sending him nudes, and in these nudes, they were accidentally reveals to Lex Luthor's plan, and that's how they're able to stop him. Again, reading that on paper, seeing that there, I did not want that in Superman. I was like, dude, that's horrible. James Gunn, come on, you're better than that. You watch the movie, there's so much more other context to that. This girl is only pretending to act ditzy or not care about anything because she knows, oh, Lex Luthor's other girlfriends were put in a prison in a pocket dimension. I better make this bald dude happy. And she even went a step further by getting some insurance, taking photos of herself not nude, fully clothed, just her smiling, where she got all the contracts, maps, and things that led to Lex Luthor's demise. The way it's executed in the movie, I am totally fine with, and it made that character work for me, and I even like the comedic relief between her and Jimmy Olsen. Like, yeah, Jimmy Olsen's just a player. But it just goes to show you, dude, some people were preying on the downfall of this movie and warping plot points to just make this movie sound as awful as possible. But Superman saves the day, Lex Luthor goes off to prison, Lois and them continue being happy with one another, and we are given the ending of this movie that honestly felt like this should have been the real post-credit scene. So I'm going to save that cameo and reveal for the post-credit scene talk and just talk about how happy that ending made me feel. Whenever Superman is back in his Fortress of Solitude, he's laying back to, I guess, get more treatment from his robots that he now names Gary. I thought that was cute. Superman asks him to play the video of his parents because it soothes them, and it ended up being Ma and Pa Kent. And that right there, mixed in with the music, that I know some people don't like the song choice at the end of the movie. I love the song choice. I think it just fits so well. That scene twice now, it gets my tears flowing. It gets me emotional. I think that's such a beautiful, sweet way, and leaves me walking out of theater feeling so happy with this movie. And that's honestly what this film accomplished. All its flaws, all my nitpicks, yes, they are there, and I understand why to some other people, those would be deal breakers, and they don't love this movie as much. To me, the things it does do right way overshadow those nitpicks or those things I didn't love as much. I cannot wait to see more of this Superman, find out what else happens in this DCU, and I think this is a really strong start. This is the most optimistic I felt for the future of DCU in a long time. But okay, getting on to the post-credit scene talk / cameo at the end of the movie. There's really no point talking about the post-credit scenes. James Gunn mentioned that the post-credit scenes DCU probably won't mean all that much. They'll continue to be this cute things of like Superman on the moon with Krypto, or him just randomly having a conversation with Mr. Terrific about the damage of Metropolis that really didn't do anything. Feels just like a random deleted scene. No, so to me, the real post-credit scene was Superman's cousin, Kara Zor-El, played by Millie Alcock, who's getting her Supergirl movie next year, returning all drunk to pick up her dog Krypto. Okay, so much to discuss. I did not expect for Supergirl to have this party girl persona, and I've already seen so many people absolutely hate it, so turned off that this is how Supergirl is going to be. And for me personally, that made me so much more excited for Supergirl. This is a good start. I'm sure Supergirl is going to do a better job explaining to this, but the reason why this works for me is because that does fit in line with the Supergirl character. Some people think that she's just like this college party girl who's, woo, what's up, bitches? No, that's all a coping mechanism because she's a depressing, sad character. Whenever Supergirl got announced, I picked up the Woman of Tomorrow comic, and they do a good job of explaining that Kara did get to live on Krypton. She did experience that life, and to her, that was her world. And unlike Clark Kent, who never was raised in Krypton or saw what it was like because he started his life on Earth, Kara is heartbroken that she is the last of her kind, that she'll never be able to see her people or family again. And it eats so much away at her that she has to numb that pain by going to planets with red suns, getting drunk, and not thinking about the fact everyone she knows and loves is dead. In the Supergirl comic, she's just more depressing than Party Girl, which still worked for me in the comic. Like, she's serious but sad. But maybe that would be a little too depressing to do for a full movie, right? It's just a girl who's entirely sad and depressed. I can already see the people who hate strong females going, tell her to smile more, man. I don't like this chick. So adding in that detail that she covers up her sadness and depression with this party girl attitude, like she's perfectly fine. Oh, dude, that makes me so excited to see that character now and how she's going to have to grow up from that. That's not going to be her permanently. She's going to overcome, at least I think, those issues she has. But seeing the way she interacted with Krypto, and Krypto's just like bouncing her, breaking her on the concrete and her laughing, I love that. Also shows why Krypto was such a bad dog. Also doesn't make me mad that Krypto isn't exactly Superman's dog. Superman still cared and loved for that dog, even if he wasn't perfect. And also, if it was Superman's dog, man, it'd be so much harder to keep that identity secret if from birth as a kid, Ma and Pa Kent also had to conceal the identity of a dog. That is crazy. So yeah, I love the way Supergirl was introduced. I love her costume. And now, like, I can't believe it. I'm genuinely looking forward to Supergirl the movie because that film is gonna be crazy. Aside from that, though, there's a ton to look forward to in the DCU and what's next. Guy Gardner is going to show up in the Lantern series, and Nathan Fillion's already mentioned that he's dropping so many F-bombs, which I think will be interesting to see because he wasn't dropping any F-bombs here, but he definitely was an a-hole. A likable a-hole, though. I was never a big Guy Gardner guy, but this movie, it turned me around on him. I hope Mr. Terrific ends up getting a Terrifics movie because, dude, I think he's so cool now. They did this character so well that I genuinely want to find a couple comic books to read more about this guy. But anyways, guys, that is just my opinion with Superman. I'm sure there's so much more we could discuss and talk about. You saw here, I was just talking for so long. I want to know from you what you love, what you dislike, your theories and thoughts. Is there anything I missed? I'm sure I'm bound to miss a couple things. There was a lot in this movie, but hopefully I hit all the key points. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.